Are you dreaming of designer style Christmas tree without the designer price tag? You're in the right place. Today I'm sharing 25 stunning DIY Christmas ornament dupes inspired by Pottery Barn, McGee Co, Crate and Barrel, and so much more. All budget friendly, high-end looks that I actually use in my own holiday decor. Hey friends, welcome back. I'm so excited to finally bring all of these beautiful ornaments together in one big video for you. If you've been around for a while, you know I'm all about creating elevated seasonal decor for less, and these ornament ideas are some of my very favorites. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Sonia. On this channel, I share chic and affordable DIY home decor and furniture flips with love for timeless high-end looks on a DIY budget. So if that sounds like your thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming holiday projects. And give this video a thumbs up if you're ready to start crafting your dream Christmas tree. Let's jump in and get inspired. For most of the DIYs here, I will be using these clear ornaments from Dollar Tree. For this very first one, I will also be using black acrylic paint, gold acrylic paint, blue acrylic paint, as well as bronze acrylic paint. I will also be using some cinnamon as well as some baking soda to mix into the paint. To make the baking soda paint mixture, I will be adding 1 part baking soda to 2 parts paint, and then you want to mix that well before you paint. But before I start painting, I will be removing the tags off, as well as these little hanging ribbons or ropes, because for most of them I won't be adding any ribbon, but for I think one of them I am adding my own ribbon to them to hang them on a tree. But you can leave these, or you can add any ribbon that you want, or you just like me, you don't have to add, because I will be using them more of a table decor and shelf decor than rather on a tree. So once I have my paint mixture mixed well, and you want to mix really well so you don't have any clumps, I will proceed to painting all 3 ornaments first. Once I was done painting them, I let them dry completely before I move on to the next step. For the next step, I'm going to get my paints ready. I just add some onto the paper towel, and I'm adding all the other 3, the bronze, the gold, and the blue. And then I'm going to have, and each of them is going to have their own paintbrush, and I'm going to apply generous amounts of just dabs of it, but generous dabs, and then I'm going to rub it in. I'm just using my hand to do so, and I just want to cover the area, in some areas heavier, in some areas lighter, so that way there's different shades of gold all around it. And then I proceed and repeat the same process with the bronze. Now once I start at the blue, I only do it in like 2 or 3 sections. I don't actually go through the whole ornament, because I'm trying to create that discolored look that some of the aged things have, like these ornaments, or even almost like the silverware, when it kind of has the different shades of blue in them, because they're so old. So that's kind of a look I'm going for.
Come on in, come on up, come on over for the merriest time of year.
So as you can see, you want the blue to be blended in well, so it's just, you just catch a hint of it looking at it. Now I repeat the same process for for the other two ornaments. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonia, and on this channel you will find tons of home decor DIYs as well as home reno DIYs. So I hope this is something that you enjoy watching, and you press that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell as well, so that way you don't miss out any of my future uploads. And I would love to have you here as part of my YouTube family. For the last step for these ornaments, I'm going to make them not only smell good, but I'm going to add another layer of texture to them by adding some cinnamon. So I add fairly generous amount of cinnamon sprinkle onto them, and then I take a paper towel and I rub it off. I do not wait for the paint to completely dry. It's not necessary because you had blended the paint in so well that most of it is pretty dry, and this also will help some for when it's a little moist. It helps the cinnamon to stick. So I absolutely love the way these turned out. I think they're gonna look great on my tea card. You could also, like I said, add ribbon, hang them on a tree, or just add them into a bowl with some greenery. For my next DIY, I picked up these cone-shaped ornaments at Dollarama. I think they were around $3.50. So and I absolutely love the shape of them. I'm not sure what the name for this shape of an ornament it is. If you happen to know it, leave me a comment down below letting me know. I will just call them cone shaped, and I give them a spray paint. I spray paint them with white chalk paint. You want to have a lighter spray paint color if you're going to be spray painting, because of the next step. You want the next step to show, and the lighter the color, the more it's gonna show. So once they were all spray painted, I went outside and I picked up some dirt. Yep, dirt it is. So we're moving on from cinnamon and baking soda to dirt. My dirt was quite moist. That's how you want your dirt to be. Mine is moist because it was frozen and now it thawed out, so it was a little wet. You don't want a full-on mud, but you want it pretty close. I do end up adding a little bit of water for my next one, just because I found that as wet as it wasn't wet enough. So you take the dirt and then you just rub it all over the ornament, making sure to get into all the little crevices.
Christmas times, we'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the windows in the rain.
Once I was done rubbing it, I took a clean brush and just brushed off any excess dirt that I did not want on there. And then I proceeded on taking my gilding wax and adding some gold. This is called, I think it's called aged gold that I have. And I am just adding it into different spots of the ornament, rubbing it in with the paintbrush and my hand at the same time. And this will create another dimension, give it even a more of a rustic look. The key to the dirt and to this wax is to rub it in.
We'll be chilling and having a good time. Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the windows in the rain is pouring. It will always be Christmas in my heart. But this year I wanna hang out with my friends and family, making angels in the sanctuary. Doesn't matter, it's Christmas in my heart. Here we go. All right. gonna dance.
So I do love this look. I think it almost looks like it's old wood that was painted gold, or I don't even know, but they do give me the wood look vibe. So I repeat the same process for all the other two ornaments. Now you can be done at this point, or I went ahead and just gave it just light couple sprays of white at different sections. This blended it even a little bit more, and I just love the way these end up looking on my tree. I did end up adding some ribbon to them to hang them up. For ornament number 3, I am going to be using some flower, some back to my white clear ornaments, and then I'm also using black acrylic paint. So I'm going to give these a coat of paint, let them, I'm not going to let them dry before I add flower to it. So I am going to be sprinkling flour onto them, covering the whole ornament with it. And then I'm going to let it dry. I will repeat the same process for all the rest of them. Now I also want to mention that you don't have to paint these with black acrylic paint. You can do brown, you can do green, any acrylic paint that you want. Once they had dried, I take a clean brush and I just brush off all the excess flour that didn't stick off. And then I take the same gilding wax and do pretty much the same idea as the first DIY. I take the brush and then I just brush it on and rub it, swirl it, rub it in. I am mostly using the brush to rub it in, but I will use my fingers where necessary. How much gilding wax you put on, that is totally up to you. This is how I like mine to look. So I repeat the same process for the other two. So as you can see, they are similar to the first ones, but yet different because the texture is completely different, and I just love the way these look. For the number 4, I'm back to using the clear ornaments again, and I'm using a glass or a mirrored spray. And the inspiration that I saw said mirror, but I couldn't find mirrors, so I did buy glass, and it did work. I'm creating mercury type ornaments, so I'm using that spray as well as a bronze and a gold spray, equal parts of water and vinegar spray, and then you'll need some hair dryer as well. So I do 3 sprays of this. I did learn that maybe my ornaments were a little too big just for 3, so I do end up doing about 5 sprays. Swirl it around, and then I spray some 1 or 2 sprays of vinegar and water, and just swirl it around a little bit more, and then I blow dry it. And I blow dry it until it's completely dry. Now, if you happen to have a ton of water in there, you do want to dump that out. But the swirling is absolutely necessary. As you can see, I go back in and spray some more of that mirrored, because I just felt like I wasn't getting the look that I was looking for. But I think the 5 sprays was sufficient for the larger ornaments. So once you are done swirling it around, like I said, if you think you have a lot of water in there, you might want to dump that water out before you use your hair dryer to dry it all out, and you want to keep drying it until it's fully dried in there. And make sure if there is a little bit of water out there that you do not dump it into your hair dryer. Once that was dry, I give it a spray of bronze first, then I'm gonna do gold one for the second, and the third one I'm going to do the mixture of both. So I think I gave about 3 generous sprays in there, and then I swirl it around again, and then I use the hair dryer again and dry it until it's dry. I am amazed at how these turned out and how that whole mirrored spray works. So like I said, for the next one I do exactly the same thing, but for my spray paint I am using gold, and then for the last one I will be using the combination of both of them. I think these look so good. They 100% look like they came from a unique high-end store. Now for the little ends of the ornaments, I did take them all and I just sprayed them with my bronze spray paint. You can use any spray paint you want to paint them. I just thought the bronze probably would be the best choice for the ones, the colors that I have chosen to go with. And I want to also mention that for all of these DIYs that I'm using the spray paint color, the metallics do work better than, let's say, a solid paint color, although I will be using a solid spray paint in the next one. So this one was almost a bonus DIY because I had one ornament left over, and I just wanted to show you a different way that you can make the same mercury glass type of ornament. It does end up turning a little different, but it's very similar. So I fill up a tray with water, then I do give spray of the glass spray, and then the bronze and the gold, but I'm also adding a walnut brown color because I just felt like it needed another color in there. Now I'm going to take that ornament and swirl it around. How much spray paint you actually spray in there depends on how well you want this covered. I did end up adding a little bit more paint because I did feel that I didn't have enough, so keep that in mind. So probably a bit more is better than less. And I think this ornament turned out very similar to the other ones, but I think the whole process was a little bit easier. For the very first DIY, you are going to need some oranges as well as baking sheet lined with some racks, or you can just put your oranges straight onto the rack. And we are going to be recreating these orange slices from McGee Co. And as you can see, the set of 12 of them is $22. I had picked up my oranges. They were $1.77 a pound, and this was just under $5, and it gave me double the amount. You're also going to need some twine so you can attach it to the dried slices so they are able to be hung as ornaments. I am using half of them as ornaments and half of them will be as bowl fillers. So you want to slice your oranges about 1/4 inch, and I did measure just so I can get a guide, and then the rest of them I just sliced using that first one as a guide. You can put these directly onto your oven racks in the oven. I just thought it might be a little bit less messy if I lined my baking sheet with parchment paper and then I added some racks to them. These are racks from our smoker, stand-up smoker, and they fit perfectly onto my baking sheet. Once I had sliced all of my oranges, I'm going to add them to the baking sheet. Now you want to preheat your oven to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Mine KitchenAid Pro Style oven did not have a 200 bake setting, but it did have a warming setting and proofing setting, and warming setting is at 200, so that is what I turned on for mine. When you are doing this project, I just want to let you know you want to give yourself plenty of time. I'm talking 6-7 hours. It is a very easy project to do, but it does take time. So if you do not want to leave your oven unattended, you have to be home for the duration of, and it took, for me, it took 6.5 hours. And then I had two or three of them that were a little bit thicker, and I had to leave those for a little bit longer. I have read blogs where they said it would take 4 to 5 hours, and some did it at 250. Now, some of them said not to do it at 250 because that's when they will burn a lot easier. Whereas if you do them on a lower for longer, they won't burn as quickly. So you do have to keep an eye on them once you are approaching that 5 or 6 hours. I would say at 5 hours, start checking them. If you've never done this, I would start checking them at 4 hours just to make sure, depending on what your oven is like. But before I put mine in the oven, I did take a napkin and or paper towel and just dried them all up, just the tops because they are very wet. And I think this does help the drying process as well. You can also use your dehydrator to do this if you have one, or your air fryer also has a dehydrate. Um, well, mine does. The Ninja Double one has a dehydrate setting as well. However, I would not be able to put all of these into my little drawers on the air fryer, so I chose to do it in the oven. And here they are. This is what they look like once they were dry, um, or baked. I did read somewhere that you could sprinkle right when they come out and they're hot. You could sprinkle some powdered sugar onto them, and they will give them a shiny look. However, I was a little bit afraid of doing that for storage purposes, that it might create some mold. While they are stored away. Not sure if that would happen. If you've ever done that and stored them successfully in a Ziploc bag with your Christmas decor, let us know down below. I did take a large needle and cut up some twine to the length that I thought would be great for hanging. However, I could not thread the twine through because it was a little bit thicker than the opening, so I did just wrap it around and pushed it through, and that seemed to have worked. You could also use a hot glue gun and just add a little dollop on top and attach your twine to that. I thought this was a little bit nicer looking than having that hot glue on there. I know that McGee Co, the price wasn't that astronomical at $22 for set of 12. However, this was um, a lot cheaper, at $5 for the double the amount. And the plus part of this was it made your house smell so nice. And I think that this DIY, these ornaments are gonna look great with my theme. I'm going for more of a natural rustic look this year. I've kind of went that way last year as well, but I am focusing more on it this year than I did last year. Like I said, I love the way these turned out, and I think they are going to look great on my tree. Next DIY is another ornament DIY. I absolutely love making ornaments, my own ornaments for Christmas. I gift these, I use them myself, and I think the possibilities are endless. So for this, I'm using gold, brown, and red paint, and I am going to be recreating this glass iron ornament that are $12. Now, these ones are not glass because I do not want glass in my house. I run a home daycare, and that can be just a whole disaster with glass ornaments. So I picked these up for $1.50 at a Dollar Tree. And I'm also going to be using some flour. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing is adding 2 coats of this brown paint to 2 of them, and then I'm gonna do 2 coats of the red paint to 2 of them. Now, originally I was going to use a Christmas red, but I did find it was a little bit bright, so I just decided to use a deep red instead of Christmas red, and the brown is called um, burnt umber. I think that's what the brown color is called. While the first coat was drying, I did go ahead and spray paint the little caps of the ornaments, and I use a dark walnut to do so. I just thought it gave them that vintage look. You could also do, if you have like what is the antique brass would look good as well. Gold would look good. Even just black would look good as well. I think it adds such an elevated look to the ornaments. So I did that while the first coat was drying. Then I applied the second coat. of the paint, and then I did not wait for the second coat to dry before I dusted it with some flour. This is definitely not a new technique. You want to cover the whole ornament with flour, at least I did for mine, and then you want to let it completely dry before you brush it off. I've shared these type of DIY ornaments last year. I am doing something different after the flour is dusted off. Now, I thought I did show how I was dusting the flour off, but the camera wasn't on when I was doing it. So I'm just showing you how I did it. I used a bristling brush, a stippling brush, stippling brush, and you want it to be dry and clean, and just dust all the flour off. You can also use a rag to remove the flour, but I like this way better. Now, I was going to use, I have Annie Sloan Antique Gilding Wax, which is almost like a rub and buff, but it did not really work very well with flour on there. So I ended up doing just two different types of gold that I had on hand of acrylic paint. One was spun gold and the other one was yellow gold. And I kind of blended the two colors together on the ornament, not while I was applying it. And I was using brush, and then I did end up using a napkin or a paper towel to do that. You can do this any color that you would like. As you saw, theirs was a little bit more on the antique black kind of color, which you could totally do, and it had a little bit of sparkle, which you could add to it as well, if you didn't have sparkly black paint. But you just want to continue doing this until you blend the colors together, and you still want to leave some of that bottom color showing through, and the flower just gives it a little bit more texture. And here is what they look like all done. I absolutely love the way these look. And adding some ribbon to them definitely makes them look even more expensive. Here are the supplies that I had purchased. Some of the supplies I already had on hand. So this set of blue and silver ornaments came from Dollarama. They were $4 for the whole set. I will be only using the silver ones. I really wanted ones that had a bit of like dimension to them. And then I also picked up two sets of these, so 4 altogether. These are from Dollarama as well. Dollar Tree carries them as well. They're a little bit bigger. And then some other ornaments that I had picked had on hand were the flat ones that Dollar Tree sells. I got mine at Michael's last year on clearance. I think the whole box of them was like $7, but you can get them for $1.50 at Dollar Tree. So I'm starting off with the silver ornaments. I am outside, and I just filled this bottle with some water, and I'm spraying it well with water, and you want those driplets to be on there. And then immediately after, I'm going to take my spray paint. I am using dark walnut. You can use black. I thought I was using black, but it was dark walnut, and it turned out well. I don't mind the way they turned out at all. It did give me the look that I was going for. And then you let them dry, and that's it for the ornament. So you just want to give yourself some space from spray painting, so you don't spray too heavy. And then I repeated the same project, same step with the rest of the silver ornaments. I also spray painted the tops of these ornaments with the same walnut color. I love how antique they turned out. It just elevated that silver look that they were. And I love how the little droplets show up on it. And I put some on my tree with some fancy ribbon, and then I just added some to my bowl of ornaments. Next, still working outside, I took the tops of the clear ornaments and I spray painted them with this antique bronze color. This spray paint came from your dollar store and more. Sometimes they have like odd looking colors, not your primary colors, and they are significantly cheaper there. I think I picked this up for $4 and I've used this several times already. I'm just using very little just for these caps here. You can do this with paint, just regular paint. You don't have to do this at all. You can just leave them silver. Black looks good as well. Some people have luck with rub and buff. I don't, but I don't actually have rub and buff. I have the antiquing wax, so maybe that's the difference. And now I'm back with this dark walnut satin color, and I'm spray painting two of these with that spray paint. As you can see, I struggled a little bit, so I put them in this container so they would not flip. So probably a good piece of styrofoam would work better. I cannot stand the sound of styrofoam, so that did not work for me. So I gave this a solid coat. You don't want to spray too long on one area because it'll drip. So we are now back inside, and once they were completely dry, I took out my crafting sponge, dabbed on a little bit of gold, and then I dabbed some of it off, and then I just sponged the whole ornament with that. I am using spun gold. You can use any gold you have on hand. So once it was completely covered, well, to the way I wanted it to, I took another sponge, crafting sponge, and this metallic brown color, and it's almost again like that bronzish color, and I proceeded to do the same exact process as with the gold. And once I covered the whole area again, I let that dry, and then I did the exact same thing for the other ornament. I think these turned out absolutely stunning. I just love the way they look. And again, I added the ribbon to hang them on a tree. For my next clear ornaments, I have had this tissue on hand. It is just white tissue paper. You can use any color you want. I really did want just white, and I'm going to tear it up, and we're going back to basics of crafting, and we're going to do some paper macheing. And if my memory serves me right, I hope I mixed up my paper mache mixture right. I just added some water into the flour. Once I had my tissue ready and my solution ready, I went ahead and started paper macheing. And if you've never done this before, you just cover either an area or the whole thing, and then you add your paper, and then you put more paper mache solution on top of it, and then you want to let it completely dry before adding more to it. And depending on what kind of a coverage you want, you can do two steps, or you can do more steps. I only did 2, and I am so pleased with the end result. For next 2 DIYs, I'm going to be using the flat ornaments. I call them flat. You will see them in just a second. And for the first 2, I'm going to use this Annie Sloan Old Ochre chalk paint. You don't need to use chalk paint. This was the only beige looking paint I had. I was going to use acrylic, but I did not have any beige color, so the chalk paint to the rescue. And then I'm also going to use ice cappuccino as well as brush gold acrylic paint, and you will need some of those crafting brushes again that we just used in the previous DIY. And for the caps, I will be just painting them with some gold color at the end. So the first step is to take the beige color and paint the whole ornament with that beige color. So once the ornament is completely painted, you don't want to wait for it to dry before you move on to the next step. So the next step is going to be to take your sponge. Now you can wet these, I did not, and dab them into the ice cappuccino, and then dab some off and just dab it, sponge it on the ornament. And you want to blend as you're sponging on because your other paint is still wet. And then you're going to repeat the same process with the gold as well before anything dries, so that way you can blend all the colors well together. I wanted my ornament to be a little of a lighter color. If you want it darker, I would go a little bit heavier with the darker color. And then while it's still wet, you take your flour and you cover the whole ornament with flour and you let that dry. And while that was drying, I went ahead and painted the same way my other ornament, and you will see how two of them turned out just slightly different. And that's the best part about making your own ornaments, not one is the same. So once it was dry, I took a clean brush, a bigger one, and just brushed everything, all the flour off. I like using the bristle brush for this. I think it works the best. So here is how that looks at this point, and now I'm going to put the cap on it and paint the cap. And here they both are on the tree. I think they turned out so nice. I just love the really different texture that they are and the look that they have. So for the last ornament that I'm going to be making, I'm using the same clear ornament, and I'm painting it with that ice cappuccino, the whole thing with it. And again, before you move on to the next step, you're not gonna let the paint dry. So for the next step, I'm going to take baking soda and I'm going to sprinkle it on, covering the whole ornament, and then you're gonna let that ornament dry. So once it dried, I brushed the baking soda off the same way as I did the flour, and then taking the same colors that I used for the previous ornament and just sponging them on. However, I'm obviously sponging on the beige color and the gold color and just blending them together. This is just to show you how using the same colors, what a different look it can give you. Just a couple different switching out a couple different steps and you get a completely different look, but still using the exact same colors, so that way you don't waste any colors that are left if you pour them into the bowl like I did. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed these DIYs. I absolutely love the way they all turned out, and they look amazing on my flock tree, which now consists of mostly DIY ornaments. If you guys do not know, I have a home channel where I share all my decorating that I do in my home, and the channel is linked down below for you to check out, and you can see how I showcase a lot of my DIYs that I make. For my next DIY, I will be using black and bronze chalk paint, as well as these small little ornaments. I have seen these at Dollar Tree and at Dollarama, and I'm also going to be using some jute rope, or you can use twine. Now my ornaments did come from Dollar Tree, but like I said, I've seen them at any dollar store. And then I was going to use some sanding block too, but at the end I never ended up using it. So the first thing that I am doing is giving it a coat of a bronze spray paint, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the black spray paint to it as well, but not covering it fully. I am covering it more with the bronze, and then I'm just going to do little sprays of black on them. I wanted to create more of that aged look on them. I am really liking the rustic color, less rustic ornaments this year to go with some of the black accents that I will be using in my Christmas decor. So now I'm going to use that twine and cut it up to the length that I need it to be. I am going to be putting this on my large fireplace upstairs, so I wanted to make sure that it fits. So if you are doing this DIY yourself, you might want to measure out where you want this to go and cut the twine to that size. And then I'm taking more twine and cutting it into smaller pieces, about 2 inches. I'm going to use that to tie the ornaments to the other twine. Now I'm creating a loop at the end so that way I can hang this up, and I will be doing this on both ends of this rope. And I'm going to trim the piece hanging over from the loop. And then once I have my loops all set up, I'm going to start by adding the ornaments, and I'm tying the rope to the ornament, and then I'm tying the ornament to the rope. And I repeat this for all the ornaments, spacing them out somewhat evenly. You will be able to move them around once they are on the rope anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you space them out evenly right now. You can always adjust them later. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, welcome. My name is Sonia, and on this channel you will find tons of home decor DIYs, from seasonal to DIY projects around the house, as well as just a general DIY decor. So if this is something that you think you might enjoy and you are enjoying this video, I would encourage you to press the subscribe button and notification bell so you get notified when I post new videos. I am starting my Christmas decor DIYs now, and I already posted a mega one. If you've missed it, it will be linked at the end, so go check that one out. That one will give you a ton of inspirations for your DIY decor. I just love the way this garland turned out, and I think it's going to look so good with my brand new cedar garland that I had just purchased at home. So I wanted to include this little quick DIY. I have a ton of these clear ornaments. These are from Michael's, but you can get them at Dollar Tree as well. And I just wanted to share with you a very quick DIY. I had these mini pine cones. Some are frosted and some aren't, and I just filled it up with them, and I just love the way this turned out. It's such an easy DIY, and these ornaments sell from, I've seen some at Canadian Tire for upwards of $5-6, and then there's a lot more expensive ones at Pottery Barn with similar. You can fill these up with berries, like I said, pine cones, or even just some of that cedar you can stick in there. The possibilities are endless. And to dress it up even more, I would recommend painting the little cap or adding some rough and buff to it, or a glaze, or anything that you have. I have antiquing glaze. I think that's what it's called, yes, from Annie Sloan. So I use that as well, just to elevate the look of the ornament. You can also take it out and spray paint it. And then to go one step further, you can add some ribbon to it as well to hang it up. Going from something that costs under $1 to a very high-end look. Moving on to another ornament project. I did pick these up at your dollar store with more. I just loved the design on them. I didn't love all the glitter that they had. But I just want to say, when you come across ornaments that you don't like the color, it is the easiest way to solve that problem. You can use spray paint. I've seen stone spray paint and spray paint used together, which gives a really nice texture to an ornament. To antiquing glaze, to waxes, to flower, all sorts of different stuff. Like I said, I have a whole video dedicated to many ways you can upcycle an ornament that I did last year, but I wanted to just show you how easy it is to add this the color of your decor style to this specific ornament. I had champagne colored ornaments. I think this would be a rose gold colored ornaments a couple years back, but I'm kind of done with them. I'm more into earthy tones, the darker colors. So, but like I said, I loved the design of this one. So I took a sanding block, and I sanded off as much glitter as I possibly could. I could not get it all off, but the majority of it I did get off. And once I was done doing that, I proceeded with painting them with first color and then the second color, which I will show you in just a second. So before you start painting them, take some either skewer sticks or any dowels, longer dowels that you have, and put them through the hole where the little end piece goes. You can even go another step and duct tape them, or use masking tape or painter's tape to tape them together, so that way it doesn't turn on you. I have had this shimmery gold color that I wanted to use, so I wanted to give it a try. I did just buy it. It was a brand that I've never used before, and it had come from your dollar store with more. It wasn't sticking to the surface as well as I would have liked to. I could have added Mod Podge to it first, probably would have been a little bit easier, but I wasn't looking for full coverage, so I was okay with it not covering it 100%. And then the last thing that I did, I took the little ends and I just added some gold glaze to them using a brush and the little the glaze from Annie Sloan that I have. And I think this turned out really nice. I'm using mine in a bowl, but you can again hang them up, and don't forget to use some ribbon or some twine to elevate the look. For my next DIY, I'm using these little hooks because I'm going to be attaching them to these things, and this is a foot. I assume it's a furniture foot. It was an odd piece at a thrift store, so I decided to turn it into an ornament, kind of like a finial ornament. I love these. I've seen them at Walmart. I think my Texas house has maybe a little bit bigger ones, but or my Texas home. I really like this. You could also use spindles. If you have spindles on hand, you can sand them down or paint them and hang them up. Use them as ornaments as well. I think that would work out well too. So I really liked the natural color, so I did not touch it. You could obviously stain it, paint it, or do whatever you want. Because my front tree in my house, and if you had missed my home tour or any of my decorating videos over on my home channel, make sure you check them out. The link to my home channel is in the description box. But I liked using I like the fact that it was natural wood, because that's the kind of the direction that I want that tree at the front to go, a more of a rustic natural look. So I've been slowly switching out ornaments on there. It's a 9-foot tree, so it is a pretty expensive thing to do, to switch out all the ornaments. So I've been doing it slowly, making some and things like that. So I think this ornament's gonna look really good there. So there was a hole there, so I put through the rope. Originally I was thinking of using the S-hook, but I've decided this might be a little bit of an easier way. So I put a little bit of glue into the hole, and then I made a loop, tied a loop with a rope, and then I pushed the one end of the loop in there, and then I glued it, and then I put some wood glue, threaded it through the little dowel on top, or whatever that's called, and then I put a little bit more hot glue just to hold it in place while the wood glue takes time to cure. You don't want to obviously hang this up right away. You want to let it sit and wait, and that's it. Project, you're going to need some sort of a Bristol board. I am using one that I had on hand, and I'm going to cut out some strips out of it, 2 strips, because we are going to be making this brass bow tree topper from McGee Co. It retails for $22 US. I wanted to make this for such a long time, and I was trying to figure out the best way to do it, and then I did see Evelyn Hernandez do a similar look, so I thought I'd try it out myself. So I am going to you could measure it so it's exactly the same size as the McGee Co inspo. However, I just eyeballed it. I did not need it to be the same size as that one. I really liked the look of it, and that is what I was trying to recreate. So I just took a piece and then I twisted it so that way the two ends meet, and then I into a bow, and then I did that with another piece. And so I took the one strip and I made sure that they are cut the same size. So one will be a little bit longer, and that one will be your bottom, and then the shorter one will be your bow. And then you assemble the bows individually, and then you put them together, and then you put the hanging pieces on it. This was so easy to make. You could make even ornaments like this, make them a little bit smaller. You can make them even bigger. It's all up to you. That's the beauty of making things yourself. You can customize them and make them fit your style or your needs. And you can also paint them or put rub and buff or whatever you want on them. They don't have to be the gold. You can paint them any color you want them to be. So now it's time to assemble it. So I'm going to put these two pieces together, and then I'm going to add the hanging pieces. I also cut a little diamond shape to fit right over top of where they were overlapping, because on the original piece, it did have, or the one from McGee Co, it did have a little, it looked like a little piece on top. So that is what I am adding here. And then I took it outside and I spray painted with my bronze color as well as this is antique bronze. And then I also spray painted it with some metallic gold. Then while it was still wet, I brought it inside and used a craft sponge just to blend the paint all together. And once it was dry, I added a little bit of hot glue and craft wire to the back of it so that way I can attach it to the top of my Christmas tree. You could also add a clothespin to it if you would like. I just love how easy this was to make and how beautiful it looks on top of my tree. Is another ornament, and this time I picked up these ornaments at Dollar Tree, and I needed some green ornaments, so we're gonna be making some more suede ornaments, flocked ornaments without flocking. And I am going to make them green because the tree that I added in my living room, I wanted to make it green. So I painted them all green. I gave them two coats of color, and between the coats of color paint, I am going to just add some of the iced cappuccino paint to my tops just to make them look a little bit more vintage. And I am using some wet paper towel to do that. I find if I'm using a brush, it just slides off. So I let the first coat of paint dry before I applied the second coat of paint, but the second coat of paint I did not allow to dry. I added some baking soda to them, I feel like these ornaments, there are so many different, different but yet similar techniques to creating them, and each and every one of them gives you a slightly different look. So as these might be a little bit repetitive, but um, they're all, like I said, all a little different, and they do give you a unique look. So I love mixing and matching these techniques on my ornaments, so that way I can have a variety of them. And most of my ornaments on on a couple of my trees are all homemade ornaments, and they all look a little different. So once it had completely dried, I brushed it all off. At this point, you could, like I said, many different techniques. You can add rub and buff, you can add a sponge on, dab on a little bit of gold paint, but I am going to keep mine just like this. You can also spray paint, spray some sealant on them, so that way the baking soda stays on permanently, so it doesn't over the years rub off completely. But I just love the way these turned out. I think they are a perfect addition to my new tree. For my next project, we are going to be making some ribbons. This is simply for the convenience, not necessarily saving money, although I am saving money because I've had the supplies on hand. And the one thing that's really popular is a linen ribbon this year. Amazon does have a great selection of them, and they're not overly priced. As you can see, a spool of it is $17.99 on Amazon Canada. Sure, it's cheaper on US site. I've had this linen curtain in my stash. I've been using it for different projects throughout the year. So I wanted to just cut up a couple of ribbons for my front tree, which I totally changed the look of it this year. And I'm very excited with the way it's looking. And this ribbon was a great addition to it. So you want to cut out strips in the width that you would like your ribbon to look like. And once you have it cut out, you want to fringe the ends, so that way it creates that fringed look that those ribbons have. You can cut this ribbon as wide as you want, especially if you're making bows for the tree, or you can cut them real narrow to tie your ornaments onto the tree with. The choice is yours. And I just love the fact that I can customize this as to anything that I need it for. And you can make a ribbon out of velvet, out of any kind of a easy flowing material that you have on hand, any fabric that you have on hand. If you want to reuse some of that fabric that you may be just having laying around your house. I like making pillowcases out of curtain fabrics. I like just for decorations, obviously. They're great. You can even make tree skirts with random fabric. It's really versatile what you can make out of, and it's free.
Kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you. I don't need any presents as long as I spend this day with you. So beautiful, kissing on a mistletoe, baby, with you. Ooh. I'm making plans for what we're gonna do. I feel so blessed that I can be with you.
To add these ribbons to my tree, I took some crafting wire and I thread it through the loop, and then I'm going to use the ends to wrap it around the tree branches.
I've been longing for you, just wanna hold you close. You know the stars are shining just for you. Let's take a walk and we can follow the moonlight till we reach a place we can stay. Maybe kiss a bit and dream away. And in a while we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate.
I absolutely love the way this ribbon looks on my tree, and as you can see, it's sitting right next door to my few DIYs ago ornaments that I've made.
'Cause all I want is to spend this day with you. Let me give
And it
you
wouldn't
a
be Christmas
Christmas.
DIYs if I wasn't making some sort of an ornament. And I just want to share with you all the different techniques that you can use to create your own ornaments that fit your style. We are recreating these textured ornaments from Crate and Barrel, and I picked these up at Value Village. They were $2.99 originally. I think they're like $3.44 at Walmart. So not huge savings, but they are a little bit cheaper than getting them at Dollar Tree. Now I wanted to paint these in a dark, almost that burgundy, dark, deep red. But I didn't have the deep red color, so I just took the deep red that I had and added some of that burnt umber to it, and this gave it that deep darker color. I have added a new Christmas tree in my living room. Well, new to the living room Christmas tree. It's not a new Christmas tree to me. And I want to add ornaments to it that give me that moody vibe. So this is why I'm going with the deep red color. You can obviously make them any color you want. And then I added some baking soda. However, I did add a little too much. So it was a little bit harder for me to paint them, more of dabbing the paint on because it was very, very thick. Could have added more paint and just kind of worked with it until I got the texture that was easy pliable. But so my advice to you is just add a little less baking soda to it because this puffed up pretty pretty high, and like I said, but I made it work. It was a little bit it gave me that chunky look that I was going for. I did wet my brush just so it's a little bit easier to apply. And you want the whole ornament to be covered with the red color. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully covered that you can't see through it. So I was going for that textured look, and I think this ornament is exactly that. So right after I painted all of them, I added some flour to them. I love using flour to add, I don't even know, it gives it that almost like a textured smooth look. And you want this to completely dry. I did let mine dry for overnight, but it's not necessary. So while the ornaments were drying, I painted the caps, and I used ice cappuccino acrylic paint for that, as well as my sponge. I always find that it's easier to sponge the paint onto the caps unless you're spray painting than actually painting it, because I find the paint just slides off. If you are using a paintbrush, I would just go gently dabbing instead of actually brushing. And then once I added paint, the ice cappuccino paint, I did go to all of them. I did go in with a little bit of black, just blending everything in. And that gave me that antique rustic look on the caps. So once the ornaments were completely dry, I brushed all the flour off that was loose. Now for the next step, you can use Rub and Buff. I am running very low on it, so I just ended up using some of my paints, and I'm going to go in with metallic gold. This is an acrylic paint that I got at Dollar Tree, and I just put it into the bottom of the Ziploc bag, put the ornament in, and then I just squished it and moved it around inside the bag. And I love the different painting technique this is, and it gives the ornament even more texture, and it randomly covers it. There's no like a smooth finish to it. I just wanted a random finish, and that is exactly what happens in this bag when you're painting it this way. So here is what it looks like. And I did this to all of them, and then I ended up adding some nice ribbon to it. I went with black because I am going for that moody look. And I love the way this looks. It looks so custom, and it looks vintage, and I love all the different textures and lines that are showing through in this ornament.
I don't need any presents.
Now, we've all seen, this is not necessarily a price dupe, it's more or less finding them in store. You've all seen the flocked ornaments, everybody has them. McGee Co has them, Pottery Barn has them. These are more pricier, but you can also find them at Michael's. I haven't been able to find them at home since we do not have Target or Hobby Lobby. So I wanted brown ones. I did find beige ones and black ones at Michael's, but I could not find brown ones. And to get the flocking material, it is so expensive to get it shipped to Canada. I've found them on Etsy, and I think for one color it would cost me over $30 for a little bag of it. So I've been trying to figure out a way to create these without the flocking, and this came pretty close, and I was quite happy with the way it turned out. So I started off with spray painting the ornaments. I had these flat ornaments on hand. I bought those on sale 2 years ago at Michael's. So they had come in handy for creating DIYs, and I didn't want to go out and buy some more because I want to use up some of my stash. So this is why I'm using the flat ones, but this would work for round ones as well. They sell lots of them at Dollar Tree. I'm using dark walnut. Again, I want to create that brown, although this dark walnut was a little bit darker, but it worked really well as a base. And then while I was spray painting, I also took the lids and I spray painted them with that metallic gold paint that I just used for the candle holders. And I think this just gives it that more of a high-end look. If these are painted, you can also use a rub and buff on them, or I haven't had luck with just going straight with acrylic paint. I find that it doesn't really stick on, so I always like to spray paint a base color, and then if you still want to add more color to it, a little bit of a different color, you can go in and it makes the paint stick a little better. Now, if you have seen a lot of my DIY videos where I create these type of ornaments, I usually put the flower directly onto the wet paint. But I watched a video on Instagram, I believe, and she was saying to let the paint dry completely, then spray, the ornament wet with water, uh, and then add flour. This way the flour is not gonna cling on to paint and pull it off, which happened to me before. Even when the ornaments were dry, if there was just a little patch of maybe a wet bubble or something, it would pull the paint off. So this just makes sure that that paint stays on there. So I did this. I took just a spray sprayed it. You could also just wet them with a brush, or just run them over the water, I guess, too. You could do that as well. It looked like the water was sliding right off, but the ornaments were wet. I was able to get that flour to stick there. And you want to let this completely dry. And with it being water, you could tell uh, when it was dry and when it wasn't dry. So once they were fully dry, I took a dry brush. This could be just any brush, as long as it's dry, and just brushed all the flour off. Now, once I felt that all the loose flour was off, I went ahead and took some of my brown paint from Dollar Tree. It's an acrylic brown paint. I think it's called milk chocolate, I believe, and then just dabbed it with a wet sponge on. And this gave it that almost felt texture, which the flocked ornaments have. So as you can see, the base color didn't really matter in this case. You probably could have just sprayed it with water and then went ahead with flour, because the paint was completely covering it. Now you could also just leave it brush off some more flour off and leave it, and that would give you a different look as well. So lots of choices here, and of course the color is also a choice. So I went with brown because that is what I wanted. Now I was finding that the brown was a little, I want to say, maybe a little darker, or too brown. So I am going to be adding a little bit of white to this as well. I was just trying to get it as close to the color that I had in my on my mind that these should look like. I just love the way these turned out, and I can't wait to use them on my front foyer tree, as I'm changing the whole look of that tree this year. For my next DIY, I picked up these Dollar Tree bells. They were $1.25. I'm pretty sure every Dollar Tree has these, and I'm going to be recreating this look, although I'm going to be using 3 bells, not 5, because I'm going to be making 2 of them. So I removed all the little embellishments that the bells had, and then I went in with, again, those 3 colors: spun gold, um, yellow gold, and then cinnamon. But I'm not going to be painting these. I tried painting them and I felt that the paint wasn't really going on as well as I would like. So I went in and then I ended up dabbing the paint on instead of brushing it on, which you will see in just a minute. And I had to work in stages for this. So I went first with the spun gold, and I only did the top part. The bottom part is a little bit flatter. So I let the bottom so I did the top part, and then I let it fully dry before I did the bottom part, and then I repeated the same process with all the paints that I was adding, although I was mixing the next 2 paints together and dabbing them together at the same time. But I did do one half first and then the next half once it's dried. So this project did take a little bit of time, but the end result is so worth it. For past few years, I have been obsessed with decorating with bells, whether that's the vintage cowbells or just any gold rustic looking bells. And so I wanted to recreate this because I wanted to add something to my outdoor wreath, and which is another project in this DIY video that I will be sharing. And I wanted to spruce up my wreath, but I also wanted to add bells to it. So I decided to make my own to add to it. And I am obsessed with how all those 2 projects came together and how it looks on my front door. So once they were painted and dried, I went ahead and got some rope. I have just some twine, and I also have some thicker rope that I'm going to be using. And I wanted to make like a door hanger almost on with the rope. So I went ahead and I tied a loop, and then I went with a thicker rope and I wrapped it around and created a little bit of a longer loop at the top, just to kind of recreate that look that the bells or here had. And so that way I can hang them up on my door, I can hang them up on my banister, my mantle, wherever I choose to use them, if I choose to use them outside of my wreath. And as I mentioned before, I am grouping them by 3, and I'm making them 3 different lengths. So when you're cutting your rope, you want to make sure that it's cut different lengths, or that you tie a knot at a different length. And as I mentioned before, I just love the way these guys turned out. And I think it's such an inexpensive project to give you that high-end elevated look. Especially I I've decorated with these white bells before, but I am so feeling the traditional colors this year, along with some vintage and earthy tones, and that is what all of my decor in the house is, with some nostalgic pieces sprinkled in throughout. So if you ever want to check out how I decorate with all of these things, I do have a home channel where I share all that, and it's linked down below. So let me know what you guys think about these guys. And that's it for today's DIY Christmas ornaments. I hope you love these high-end designer dupes as much as I enjoyed making them. If you recreate any of these, don't forget to tag me on the Instagram. I'd love to see your beautiful creations. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more budget-friendly DIY ideas, and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on all the festive content coming your way. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy holidays!